Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Abraham Nghwani. Thanks for being on the show, Abram.
Thank you. Nice to meet you again, Whitney.
Yeah, honored to have you back. Abram was a guest on show number WS 270. It's hard to believe that's been almost exactly 2 years ago. And so welcome to have you back. Looking forward to hearing about your business during that time. I know there's probably been some big changes like most of us. But Abraham is the CEO and founder of Abranova Real Estate, a full stack real estate investment and construction development company. And we probably talked about that a little bit on the last show, but I think we're going to talk about it again today and some of the how that's benefited him in a big way, just being vertically integrated. Looking forward to that. But he previously worked for Gilbane Building Company, one of the largest contractors in the U.S. The idea of a vertically integrated construction development firm involved during this tenure as a pre-construction engineer. He believes lifelong learning, graduated with a mechanical engineering degree from Duke University. Abram, welcome again to the show. Why don't you just give us a couple quick updates just over the last couple of years, but I want us to dive into just this vertical integration, how that's been so beneficial for you all. I know there's numerous companies I've seen, or real estate investment firms who have, attempted, or they've bought other construction companies, right? Or things like that, so they can be vertically integrated. I think there's obviously some benefit there. And so looking forward to hearing more about that. But what's happened over the last couple of years, a couple of highlights, and let's jump into it.
Awesome. So since we last had a conversation about, a vertically integrated model, I think at the time we were conceiving the Nova RTP project, which is a mixed use of townhomes and apartments and, co-working space, a community near the Research Triangle Park where Apple has recently announced a $1 billion campus. Google recently also announced what they call an engineering hub. They're planning to create 1,000 jobs. Apple has come with 3,000 jobs. It's a great market. It's a very strong market. A lot of the large tech companies are recognizing this market for the talent. A quick nugget: there's a book by a UCLA economist. It's called The New Geography of Jobs. It's highlighted Durham, the Research Triangle Park in general, which is a combination of Durham, Raleigh, Apex, Cary. It's a number of cities and towns put together. He says that it has one of the highest concentration of basically educated professionals in the country. So 50% or more of the workforce in the Research Triangle Park have a master's degree or higher. That's a pretty high standard.
It is a high standard. And how again how can other people get access to information like that?
Reading the news, reading books. There's no replacement to just consuming as much information as possible and processing it. I haven't found an easy way of doing it. Yeah, but just nibbling and listening to people who do that. Listening to professors of real estate going to conferences, right? So taking advantage of concentrations of knowledge in at one place, that would be an easier replacement of just reading books and reading the news every day.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, as entrepreneurs, you need to be intaking information and educating yourself every day, right? I mean, I've seen big improvements in our own business just as my business partner and I strive to do that, right? But let's jump right in. And talk about just this, how you're vertically integrated. And let's talk about, developing, being a developer or having a construction company, some of the differences there, how that's benefited you. And is this something you encourage, other operators to do?
Yeah. So the more I, travel the path of operating as a vertically integrated developer, I realize, I take it for granted that as a developer, vertical integration is kind of a natural extension of what should be our ability to develop our own projects, understand construction, execute, have the capacity to operate as a construction company. Truth be told, it's not for everybody. It's you have to be comfortable with construction as a field. You have to be comfortable with the construction trades. You have to love construction as a career, and it's not for everybody. We find a lot of efficiencies. At the same time, we're not doing it out of convenience. It's a strategic decision. It's built within the expertise of our team. Like, we're both construction people. It's something that we love doing, and if you don't love doing it, it's not going to be convenient at all. So for us, the benefits have been many. We've seen deals that have come to us in a way that they otherwise wouldn't, because partners or potential partners come to us with projects that they want us to partner with them on a construction capacity. And then, over their month of conversation, that conversation changed from, hey, can you do construction for us, to, hey, can you, or maybe we offer to bring our equity in the deals, right? And so those conversations, sometimes they end up in a partnership. Sometimes they end up in the partners deciding to sell, because, as you know, real estate is a very, very dynamic field. Within 3 months, a lot can change, and what started as a partnership conversation can end up in, can we sell this to you, right? And so we end up getting projects and deals off market like that, because initially people come to us, seeing that as a vertically integrated partner, we have a lot to bring to the table than just, capital partnerships.
So the construction company, your construction company, you all will do outside work, or and when I say, work for other companies, or they're being hired out, doing lots of construction, I guess. But then, and that may be how you find another deal sometimes. Is that right? Or you're working with another owner and they have a project that, it just may be the best time to sell, and you happen to be there when they're in that mood. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So far, we haven't really been working for other owners. A lot of these partnerships are basically just starting to form. As we build our track record, as we execute on our own projects, people come to us with, asking us to do construction for them, because they understand that we're looking at the project not just as, a typical construction deal that you bid on and, you get a fee for the construction service. They understand that we look at their project from an owner perspective, because we're owners ourselves and we have project ourselves. So we're looking at the economics, we're looking at market studies, the product type, all the choices that we make have to complement, their business model, right? So they like that. And so those conversations start from that perspective, and then they evolve into, their economics change, or their plans change, partnership structures change, and we end up getting leads to those off-market deals in a way that we otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me, the listener right now that's thinking, well, maybe that's a great avenue. Maybe I have some construction skills or background. Maybe I should start a construction business, in addition to our multifamily business. But I mean, you mentioned it's not for everyone. You said you have to be comfortable with construction as a trade. I think you mentioned, and could you just elaborate on that a little bit for the listener who's thinking about maybe this is a good option for them, to add to their multifamily business or just real estate business?
Yeah, so construction as a career path is, I have an engineering background. I happen to think that it's pretty difficult to be proficient in construction if you don't have an understanding of engineering as a field. However, there are many people that own construction companies that have successful construction careers without having been engineers. There's courses in some universities that are construction management majors. You basically learn about all the different trades. There are people who have absolutely no training in either construction management or engineering, and they end up finding a path in construction as a career. So, I mean, however you end up in construction, in the construction industry, there's no replacement for years of learning and experience and learning how to read construction blueprints and working with subcontractors or solving problems. It's there's no replacement to that. Starting a construction company, you're going to start with licensure. You need to be able to pass the licensure exams, understand the laws and regulations in the states that you operate in. So in a sense, you need to be savvy. The licensure exams, can be difficult. They're not easy to pass. And so to really be efficient and have the kind of added value that as a developer, as a vertically integrated developer would warrant the effort, you really need to love it. You can't just do it, as a backup plan or as a way, as a convenient path.
Sure.
It's an entire field on its own that you just need to love what you're doing.
Do you have an example where that integration though has helped you to get a deal? I mean, specifically, or maybe you can how that played out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we recently acquired a site for 83 garden style apartments. The conversation ensued for 8 to 10 months, and it started as a partnership. But initially, the partners came to us because they wanted to partner and leverage our construction expertise. And over that period of time, they decided to sell, and we were the first one to have that conversation. So we got an off-market deal at what we consider to be a good price. If it was on the market, it certainly would have been overpriced, especially in this market right now. That's a direct example. There are many other indirect examples. We have the NovaRTP project, which is 83 unit development, 46 townhomes, 37 apartments with 5,000 square feet of co-working space and a lot of other amenities. That project has been really interesting. We started as a for sale, and then we got institutional buyers that offered to buy the whole project. And that conversation, the experience, opened our eyes to a lot of other institutional needs. Billions of dollars are being raised in that space to acquire communities, to create portfolio of build-to-rent communities. But none of those billion-dollar funds are investing in construction, right? They're not construction companies. I mean, you have the exception of companies like Lennar that recently set out $4.5 billion to pursue build to rent communities. So instead of building communities to sell, they're building communities to rent, and they're holding in their portfolio. But most of those Wall Street funds that are being raised, they don't really have that capacity that Lennar has. So they have to rely on, initially they were relying on national builders like Lennar, and now Lennar is saying, they want to play in that space themselves. So that pipeline of Lennar communities that you can go and buy is probably not there anymore, because they have capacity in-house to build those communities and rent them out themselves. And so we're seeing a lot more needs from those institutional funds to acquire communities that they're looking for local partnerships.
I've heard of that a few different times recently, where people are developing communities, say single family communities that aren't just, they're not trying to sell them, but they're building them. Their whole goal is to rent them out, rentable communities. So it's an interesting, change of thought, I guess, on that design or that type of development. What are your, just you being in the development space as well, or having that ability, just what do you see in just, those single family developments like that, affecting, say, multifamily or just commercial developments? What do you see happening there?
This trend is there to stay. It's going to be as normalized as apartment communities are today. It was not a thing, once upon a time, to just build a bunch of apartments where people can come and rent them out, right? I mean, home ownership was almost, kind of a self identity. Like, you own a home, you build your own home, your family builds a home, And so that transition from what people have normalized as, apartments are for rent and homes are for ownership is going to happen pretty quickly, especially in the middle of the pandemic, where people have more need for space than they initially thought they did. Home ownership has been declining in the United States since, 1950s. People my generation are graduating from school and they have a lot of student debt. They can't afford to buy a starter home the same way their parents were able to. So a combination of those factors and just the appetite of institutional capital to buy these communities and turn them into rentals. The stigma that people used to have of renting is kind of, dying down. There's that flexibility, and in some sense, it's a lifestyle change, right? Like, in larger cities, instead of owning a car, you can just lease a car. It's kind of, we're going into more of a subscription model, like, kind of lifestyle. And so owning versus renting, it used to be that, if you own, then maybe you have it's kind of a demonstration of, achieving the American dream. But right now, with the working remotely and the flexibility that you have to live in different cities, renting is actually more fashionable. If you make a lot of money and you live in California, your six-figure salary is probably not as effective as, if you make the same money and you live in Austin, Texas, or Raleigh, Durham, in North Carolina, right? And so if you're able to make a California salary and live in Raleigh, Durham, I mean, just imagine the amount of options that has created for you, right? And so it's a number of different factors put together that's going to normalize the build to rent asset class and turn, single family and townhome communities into rentals. And people are going to think of that as a norm. And it's great because you have the feel of a home without the burden of a 30-year mortgage.
For sure. I think it's great to, or I guess having the insight that you do on the construction side too, but thinking about what's being developed, what people are desiring right now, and even just wanting to rent versus wanting to own. It's definitely a massive shift in mindset versus what 30, 40, or 50 years ago, and just the American dream, what that really is anymore. It's just thinking through as a developer what you need to be developing, right? At a mass scale, what are people wanting and what are they going to want for the next many years? And so it's just some great examples that you shared there as well of what's happening, right? And what those people are wanting. Even as if you're a higher income earner, you may not want to own as much as you may have thought you did at one time, and just having that flexibility is valuable, right? So an interesting thing about Abraham, what about, just preparing for a downturn when you're looking at these deals, you have the construction background as well. How do you prepare for a downturn?
That's a good question, Whitney, especially as a vertically integrated company. We certainly have to make sure that our construction pipeline is sufficient to sustain our company. We have a larger overhead than a typical developer would, because we have construction, a construction team. We have superintendents, project engineers, equipment operators, you name it. We think by being vertically integrated, we're actually better prepared for a downturn than a typical developer, because construction never stops, even in the worst of times. A certain construction field may kind of slow down, like home building, apartment development, that kind of asset class. But city projects still have to go on. Municipals and cities still have to build schools, build infrastructure and whatnot. And so we think that as a vertically integrated developer, construction and development for us, they're inseparable. And as much as we continue to create a pipeline of deals for investors and our shareholders, we also invest time and effort in building our construction capabilities to be able to execute any construction project that fits our wheelhouse. So that in a downturn when home building and developing apartments doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore, we're still able to do those projects for other people at a fee. We're still able to do projects from institutions and cities and municipals for a fee. And so having that capacity to be nimble and kind of create different revenue streams for our company is how we prepare for a downturn. And
I think that makes a lot of sense, having other streams of income. I mean, and also if there's a downturn, you have issues, you can fix that probably cheaper yourself, as opposed to having to hire all those things out. So if you get hit with one issue, maybe there's another one that you all can fix internally, where a lot of other operators would have to hire that out. Do you have any predictions, say over the next 6 to 12 months, or things you expect in the real estate market that we haven't talked about?
Well, we expect each market is different, right? But we're talking about the build to rent and the single family for rent asset class. That's going to grow. Every firm that I've been talking to, some of which are publicly traded, it seems like everybody's raising $1 billion fund to go out there and buy communities. And you look at the pipeline of homes on the market, America already has a $2.5 million shortage. I mean, $2.5 million shortage of homes across the country. Partly why the lumber prices are rising so drastically is because there's just really high demand and there's a huge shortage of home across the country. And so when you combine the already shortage of homes with the appetite of institutional capital that's been raised on a pref that has to buy projects within a period of time, then you have, this really, really, really high demand that, somehow needs to be fulfilled. And so as far as we're concerned in our market, we don't see any slowdown, especially with the Apple announcement. That just kind of, threw fuel on what was already a blazing fire. Now, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but I can tell you from a demand supply perspective, the supply is very low and the demand is very high, and I don't see that changing in the next 5 years.
Okay, well, Abraham, any daily habits that you are disciplined about that have helped you achieve success?
Well, success is an ongoing pursuit. At least that's the way I see it.
That's for sure.
If you're $100 million company, you can be a $1 billion company. If you're a $1 billion company, you can do better. There's always room for improvement. But what I'm really proud of is just curiosity and being shameless about learning and asking and pursuing understanding of things, sometimes to the annoyance of other people, because you realize not everybody wants to just look at everything with like a sense of novelty and like, is this how it really is? Like, sometimes some people are used to doing things a certain way, and they don't want to be asking a lot of questions anymore. So just being shameless about learning, there's no greater joy to seeing yourself improving every day, and even better when your financial success is is kind of validating that, right? I mean, it starts with learning. Like our life isn't all just about hitting financial milestones as a company, but as living a wholesome life, from the moment that you're born as a child, you just enjoy learning how to ride a bike, learning how to write and learning how to speak. Like all those things are gratifying experiences. And so at this stage of my career, continuing that sense of learning and combining that with financial success as a company, expanding the company, going to new markets, it's just a great joy. And I'm working on it every day.
How do you like to give back?
So I have a foundation that I formed pretty much around the same time, maybe a year or two after I founded the company. My goal in the future eventually is I would like to own my company in terms of my charity foundation. Creating personal wealth is not the most satisfying thing. However, I like to have the greatest impact I can as a human being, and so far my foundation has been focusing on scholarships and providing education opportunities for high performing students who one way or another don't have the opportunities to fully realize their potentials. It's kind of self-serving because I've been a beneficiary of that. I've been a scholarship student myself. And so it's a need that I immediately recognize that I want to give back. So it's kind of, it's an immediate area that I want to focus on. But hey, there are a lot of problems around the world, and whatever I can do to make a difference, that's what I'm going to focus on.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that and wanting to give back in that way, or just from your experience, how you were given, and you want to give back. I think it's great, and I just appreciate your time today and giving back, Abraham, and really thinking through, helping even the listeners, and even I think even as a passive investor, thinking about companies you're investing with, about how vertically integrated they are, maybe some pros and cons, mostly pros. It sounds like, but like you said, it's not for everyone, and you have to be comfortable with that construction business or as a trade, I think you mentioned, but just also how you went into just how the trend of developing, say, single family rental communities is probably here to stay, and how that's probably growing in our space, and just thinking through that even as you're buying multifamily properties and who your renters are. It's just great information to be thinking through as an operator. So Abraham, how can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Well, Abranova.com is the best place to start. Abranova.com. And for those who have questions or want to reach out to me directly, my email is abraham@abranova.com. And, our company number is 919-597-0223. We'll certainly, reach back to you if you call us.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.